Okay, so before this video begins, let's go through some things that I missed. JL402 would enter service for Freight Australia for a short time using the smallest logo on the front they could find, around 2001 and 2002-ish. This explains why LVRF had the logo in green for its service life. LVRF would operate trains from Wondabyne Quarry into Sydney, including the very final run of it. I even used the only photo of these operations, yet didn't mention it like an absolute moron. All of their locomotives were in, to put it lightly, bad condition. Plus, they needed to lease locomotives from other operators almost on a daily basis. The plan was to get some new or at least second-hand locomotives for a dirt cheap price. Where else but Denmark they were to look? You might be wondering, why? Well, this was a period of time where locomotives were very hard to come by. Private companies had to buy whatever they could and possibly get a couple new ones using what little money they could save up. Keep in mind, this is all in competition with big monopolies such as GWA and Pacific National, who would usually scrap on site anything they didn't need lest it go to competitors' hands. I mean, we get heritage companies to run transfers and the like all the time now, and some companies might only have one singular locomotive, such as green trains. Most of the locomotive fleet nationwide was ageing and decrepit, so a lot of it was scrapped before the railways were even sold off. Because of this massive shortage and purge, there was basically nothing left in Australia at this point. Danske Stadtbaner, better known as DSB, were looking to retire their third series MZ class locomotives. These were 20 locomotives built from 1972 to 1974 with a higher top speed and more powerful engines than previous variations. By the 2000s, the DSB wanted them gone, so they sold 2 to Comsa of Spain in 2004, 2 to BLDX of Denmark in 2008, and the rest would be sold to Independent Rail. These 16 locomotives would be classified as the 14 class, numbered 1427 to 1446, the same numbers used in Denmark, dropping the MZ prefix. Although Guns will still call them MZs in Australia. The whole project would begin in 2006 with all locomotives bought receiving an engine overhaul. 1437 was even painted in silver, the colour scheme for the new company. Originally the plan was to refurbish them all in Denmark and then ship them over. However, due to time and space constraints, this was made impossible. The journey from Denmark to Australia would be quite eventful though. 3 journeys would be made, with MZ 1427, 28, 32, 37 and 43 being sent on the 14th of February 2006 from the port of Frihavnen. The second trip would take MZ 1429, 31, 34, 35 and 40, departing Frihavnen on the 9th of February 2007. The third trip was a bit of a disaster though. In April 2008, MZ 1433, 38, 41, 44, 45 and 46 would be shipped on the MV Emigracht from Frihavnen. However, en route just off Bermuda, the ship encountered rough seas causing an oil spill on board and major damage to 41 and 44. All locomotives had to be offloaded in Savannah, USA to be cleaned of oil contamination. After a while just sitting there, they were taken to Australia, presumably on a different ship, I'm not too sure, where upon arrival, locomotives 41 and 44 were declared write-offs. All locomotives would be sent to the Bradkins facility in Braemar for the refurbishment, with 41 and 44 being scrapped there in 2010. They would receive new pilots, horns, turbochargers, and would be re-geared with a new top speed of 105 km per hour. They would be named Helgas, Tin Cans, or Cake Tins by Gunsels alike. Around this time, 4458, 4488, 4472 and 4497 would all be repainted into the same silver Independent Rail paint scheme. Wait. I know what you're thinking. Why does 4472 look like that? Well, it was painted like this for HVRT, which is the owner of all of these, but it still has Independent Rail underneath it, I believe. They just put on this like yellow band. 4488 also received this for a while until, I believe, 2009 or sometime around then. I've got absolutely no clue. Independent Rail would provide services to West Tamworth, Narrabri West, Sandgate and/or Carrington and Newcastle, one of the 2 sidings around Blaney, Cootamundra Yard, Harefield Intermodal Terminal, which by the way was a BPA interchange, Forbes, Goulburn, Narromine, Port Botany A&L and CTAL terminals, and of course Mist. They also did plenty of work on maintenance and infrastructure trains for Railcorp and ARTC. They would hire GL109 from CFCLA at some point according to Railpage. But I mean, it is Railpage after all. In 2007, former Parks FCL manager John Harrowell was appointed as Marketing and Development Manager for MIST. One of his first acts were to tackle the condition of the locomotives. I mean, you can't really market rail as an environmentally friendly option when your locomotives produce this much smoke on the daily. Locomotive 4498 would be the target of a trial to limit emissions. Tim Elderson of Enviro Traction Party Limited, I believe now defunct, would convince Independent Rail to retrofit the locomotive with a gas-injected LPG engine system. 45kg gas cylinders were mounted to the locomotive. It saw a 75% decrease in greenhouse gas emissions and a net fuel saving of at least 10%. This saw a very significant decrease in the amount of smoke being emitted, but it was a short-lived trial. They were gone within a couple of months, so we were back to... Although they would commence a similar trial during 2008 on locomotive 1431, which notably wore this flammable gas sticker on the front ends. JL404 would be renumbered back to 44209, however would continue serving with Independent Rail. All the other JLs would be renumbered back to 442 classes and handed back to CFCLA. In response to the Sefton Park-wide derailment, locomotive 1427 would tow the damaged infield breakdown train to be repaired, which signalled the end of its career. The crane, that is, not 1427. In April 2009, Independent Rail would fully purchase all HVRT 44 classes except for 4472. 4488 would have its yellow stripe removed sometime before 2012. I genuinely can't find any photos before 2012. I don't know why. Around 2010-2011, 4461 and 4463 would be repainted into this rather nice heritage unit, in quotes, livery, SRA Red Terror. Initially this was just a way to cover over graffiti, but it looked quite nice, so they kept it. Although at first 4463 looked like this, yeah. In December 2011, 1438 experienced a major accident at Port Botany, and it was scrapped later on. From what I've heard, although I can't confirm this for fact, the independent brake system was modified at Bradkins rather poorly. The internal diameter of the piping was too small, meaning that airflow was heavily restricted, and with around 3 or more locomotives, not only would the independents take too long to apply, but also just couldn't keep them still altogether, rendering them basically useless. Such is the case here, where 4 locomotives were all hitched up together and would have started rolling down, smashing into the 5th one on a consist, destroying 1438. And that was pretty much all that Independent Rail really did. In June 2012, Cube Logistics announced that they had acquired Independent Rail's parent company, MIST. This meant that their rail operations would all be handed over. Independent Rail, after 22 years, had come to a close. So, what happened to all the locomotives? Several of the tin cans have been withdrawn, those being 1429 and 1446, the latter having only the shell remaining. 1440 was almost withdrawn after a collision with a container, however was brought back into service in September 2020 with a rebuilt cab. Currently, several are receiving some overhauls which include new turbochargers. 4717 was scrapped in March of 2022, which is quite a shame because I really like the RNH livery. All of Lachlan Valley Railway's 47s are still preserved and free operational. In July 2013, 4458, 4461, 4463 and 4497 were all withdrawn and stored at Goulburn and Junee. On July 22nd, 2013, 4488 would be sent to Junee for temporary storage. However, 4488 and 4497 would stay in service for much longer. While 4488 would retire, 4497 is miraculously still in service with Cube and is currently based around Junee, where it became quite famous for the Harefield Shuttle, a container service between Harefield and Junee. Recently the shuttle was extended to Bowman as the siding at Harefield has been torn up and the new facility at Bowman has opened. For quite a while it was absent, but as of the 21st of January it has returned, running with usually an MZ and a QBX. However, the new GT46 locomotives that Cube is ordering will almost certainly replace it, possibly the MZs. 4703 was last seen preserved at Rothby Wright, however, as with all of the other Hunter Valley Railway Trust stuff, currently, the famous run between Sydney and Newcastle is operated by Crawfords with their own PHC class locomotives and sometimes some CFCLA stuff, like a G class. And yes, this isn't the exact same run, but it's pretty much the same route and cargo, like, let's be real here. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I know it took a long time to come out, but I'm happy that I can put this two-part series to rest. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you learnt something. If you didn't, then that's cool.